Our next speaker is Koen Davidse, Director of the Fragile States and Peacebuilding Unit in the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs and co-chair of the International Dialogue on Peacebuilding and State Building, which featured heavily in Dr. Da Costa's presentation. Do we have, I gather there was a PowerPoint being sent. Has that arrived? No. Okay. Right, okay. Koen, I'd be grateful if you could just speak for 5 minutes without the benefit of the PowerPoint. Apologies.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thanks.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but I'm really happy that I can be with you this way. And it's good to see a couple of good friends on the podium there. Just to start with the point that Helder raised, the Nobel Peace Prize, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf led our discussions in Monrovia a couple of months ago. This is, of course, a well-deserved prize. For anybody who hasn't, they should read her book because it's a portrait of courage, but also a portrait of the problems of fragile states. And I think her award is well-deserved for Liberia, well-deserved for women in peace building, and also good for our issues, because I do think it helps raise the profile also with the other laureates, of course. I wanted to raise a few points. The good thing about the monologue having evolved into a dialogue is that Helder basically said it all, and I can just add a few points because I agree with everything he said, both about content and process. I want to make a few points. First point on the MDGs, just as a scene-setting point. The consensus we have now reached at all kinds of levels is quite extraordinary, and now we need to act on that consensus, and that consensus basically is nobody's undercutting the importance of the MDGs, but we are saying that we need to do extra things for fragile states. And I think the fact that we now have a peace-building commission and a CIVCAP review at the UN, the fact that we had the WDR, the fact that donors now had several rounds of monitoring the implementation of the fragile states principles, and most importantly, the fact that we now have a very active group of countries in the G7 plus shows that everybody is concerned and everybody is involved. And that brings me to my second point, and that is basically the process of from Monrovia to Busan that Helder was talking about. It has made things quite a lot easier that there is a concerted effort, and Helder was witness to that last week in Paris, that there is this strong belief that these should be issues that get their place in Busan. And there we're hoping that the Monrovia goals that we were talking about, legitimate politics, security, justice, resources and revenues, and economic foundations, will in the end influence the final outcome of Busan, and therefore the monitoring that we're going to do and will be reflected, of course, in the New Deal document that Helder was talking about. And in terms of what we're seeing now in terms of process moving forward, we're getting all kinds of inputs, both on the final version of the document that the co-chairs of Busan have produced or are producing. The G7 Plus will discuss this in Juba. I am in consultation with the chairs of INCAF, the Fragile States Group of the DAC, so that they will have consolidated comments. And we've, of course, included several civil society partners in this dialogue in order to make sure that we get comments from that side as well. And already it becomes very clear that people are, first of all, very wedded to the goals formulated in Monrovia. Secondly, very wedded to the concept of inclusion, which has to be reflected in whatever we produce. And third, very reflected to the issue of context specificity. We don't need cookie cutters. We need to learn lessons from each other, but they need to be implemented in context. I think those are already some issues we take from the comments that we're getting. Once all these consultations have taken place, a steering group of the dialogue will meet in November. We're still contemplating the date to finalize what we need to do for Busan. And then along the lines of what Helder was explaining, in Busan we will both have in plenary and as a side event we will focus on these issues. And then of course we need to take it forward in terms of monitoring. And that is basically the final point I would like to make, and that is that the monitoring side has been both successful and painful up until now. Successful because we have achieved the fragile states principles we have set ourselves up to be accountable, and I think that's been an incredible achievement. But we've also noticed that we haven't been successful in terms of what the outcome of that monitoring is. Donors are coming in late, they're not staying, there's aid volatility, there's the mixed record on supporting country strategies, but there is more awareness of context. That would basically be one way to summarize the findings of the latest report. I think Busan will help us to specify the monitoring even more by focusing some efforts at least on supporting the peace and state building goals, supporting those areas that we've just discussed, and basically through those efforts creating a better platform that in the end we can achieve the MDGs, and maybe post 2015 give these goals a place in the framework for aid that will be the new paradigm by then. So I think those would be the comments I would like to make at this stage. Very important to keep in mind that there is a consensus building. There is a process where we think we can include all sides to this debate, and hopefully then through Busan we'll have a more concerted effort to push the right points so that we can try to achieve the MDGs in these countries. Thank you very much.